So welcome to Live from My Drum Room. Today's episode is dedicated to remembering our good friend and my gigantic hero, the great Jeff Porcaro. And with me today are some of Jeff's best friends and musical colleagues, and just his peers, and just a whole bunch of people that knew him and loved him and have some great stories to share. So thank you for tuning in today to remember Jeff. And I think if you're like me, I remember Jeff every day. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about Jeff in some way, because, you know, there's probably a song or five that I either hear on the radio or I have on my playlist that I'm listening to with Jeff on it. And he was such a huge influence. I didn't know him well, but I'm just honored and blessed to have known him the little bit that I did, and to have, you know, had some great memories and conversations and time with him. So the real part of it's going to be, fun part of this is going to be hearing from all these folks today. So I'm going to go ahead and let everybody in. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to let the gang in here. So again, welcome to Live from My Drum Room. And here come all the guests. And I will introduce them to you all. Okay.
This is a long...
Okay. Guys, we're all coming back in here. Okay. Guys, we're all coming back in. Oh yeah, if you're watching it on Facebook, if you can mute the sound, we're going to get an echo otherwise. So, all right, I'm going to introduce this illustrious panel, this illustrious group. From my viewpoint, Robyn Flans, Paul Jamieson, a young fellow by the name of Vinnie Colaiuta, Harry McCarthy, another youngster named Jim Keltner, John J.R. Robinson, also a youngster, Gregg Bissonette, Rich Mangicaro, Gary Mallaber, Ross Garfield, Rick Marotta. John Good is in the building, but he's muted, so I don't know where he is. But let's see. We've got a few more people to let in here.
There he is.
There he is.
Yeah. And yeah, David Garfield is about to re-enter.
Hey, John Good.
Yes, sir.
Jody.
Are we supposed to just like chime in or something?
Yeah, so I want to just, Jim, that's a good question.
We're the boomers.
All right. Thank you. First of all, thank you guys, everybody, for being here today, especially some of you that are returning champions to the show for this very special day to remember Jeff. And I want to just read a couple quick things. Bob Glaub, I had reached out to be here, but Bob wasn't able to join. But he sent just a quick, nice note that I'll read to everybody. I just want to make sure Gary Mallaber gets in. I think he's popping in here too.
Oh, it's in.
There's Gary. Okay, Gary Mallaber's here.
Hey, Stan.
Stan Lynch.
Stan Lynch is in the building.
Stan Lynch.
Where's Stan?
There he is.
Wow, Stan!
Stan the man.
On the beach in Florida, Stan Lynch.
I don't know what's going on. I've got 96 tracks of Pro Tools going on, and I don't know what the hell's going on with the phone. I'm serious.
Gary, are you hearing us okay?
Just do a session. Greg, let's just do a session instead and talk about Jeff. Okay.
All right, so I'm going to read this message from Bob Glaub, and then we're going to go around the room here. So Bob couldn't make it today. Here's what he said. From the first time I met Jeff in 1973, he was one of the most charismatic and confident people I've ever encountered. He lit up every room he walked into. His sense of adventure, time, feel, groove, sound, precision, articulation was like no other, and he always brought out the best in everyone. The thing I miss the most about Jeff is his generosity. Every time I saw him in a session, he'd greet me loudly, "Yo, Glaub, beautiful," and plant a kiss on my neck in a very old school European Italian manner, which always made me feel like we had a great connection. I knew no matter what, the day was going to be special. If we were recording in the valley near his first home, bachelor pad on Hesby, and had a lunch break, Jeff would say, "Let's go to the grit. Let's go to the grit." We'd get in his car and listen to his favorite cassette of the day on the way and chill at his house.
Totally.
This is a great story. Real quick, he said, another great example of his generosity. My youngest daughter, Rachel, was born in 1983. I don't remember what Jeff and I were working on in 1988, but we were in the studio and I casually mentioned that Rachel was about to turn 5 and I'd like to get her a little drum kit. And did he have a recommendation? He said, let me think about it. 2 days later, we were at the same studio and he brought me out to his car on a break. He opened the trunk and said, "These are for your daughter." It was a brand new shiny black Remo PTS mini drum kit with a hi-hat cymbals and a ride cymbal. I couldn't believe it. I still can't get over it. Rachel's son, my youngest grandson, just turned 5, and Rachel and her husband are going to set up that same drum set for him.
Cool.
Isn't that great? And there's some more great stuff. And I asked him to maybe comment about a session or two, and I happened to mention The Pretender, Jackson Browne's The Pretender, which is a favorite of mine. And he said, all I can remember about The Pretender 46 years ago is that Jeff always played beautifully and perfectly from the first time he heard the song. It was amazing to me and slightly intimidating how nuanced, flawless, and insightful his musical instincts were. Graceful yet powerful. He gave it his all, yet another facet of his immense generosity. So that was beautiful. I just wanted to share that from Bob Glaub. And David Paich couldn't make it, but he just said, to everyone, have an amazing day celebrating the life and music of my favorite drummer. 2, 3, 4. So, yeah.
Not all the time we have, so we should probably say goodbye.
You've all been great guests.
Yeah, Bob nailed it.
Well,
nailed it. What do you say after that? I mean, it's the perfect description, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Well,
You know, that I just have to say that when I did the book on Jeff, there were so many people for whom he bought little drum sets for their kids. I mean, if you read the book, it was like, I think he bought one for Al Schmidt's kid. I mean, there were so many stories like that. It was like all anybody had to say to him is, my little kid, my little kid, my little kid. And he would show up with a drum set. He was the most generous freaking guy that ever walked the earth.
Yeah, sure was, man.
Yeah. I mean, let's keep it going. I mean, and Robyn, let's talk for a second. I just want to mention the book, and the book Robyn's referring to is "It's About Time." Jeff Porcaro, "It's About Time: The Man and His Music." It's a great book for anybody who hasn't read it. It came out in 2020, Robyn, I think. It's available through Hudson and Amazon and anywhere probably at this point, but it's a fabulous book. And a lot of you guys are in there quoted, and it's beautiful. It's heartwarming and a great read. So.
There's just a lot of, I mean, when you mentioned The Pretender, I mean, Jackson Browne talks about The Pretender in the book. And he actually changed the lyrics because of Jeff. I mean, what is that? Jeff played a part, and they decided unanimously, the producer and he, that they couldn't change his part because it was so great, that he added words to fit Jeff's part.
Wow.
I mean, it's just...
And he never got paid for it, I'll bet.
Part 2? Are you doing part 2? A Jeff book part 2?
Oh, Gregg, you're going to make me announce it here and now.
Do it.
Please.
Yeah.
I am working on a second book.
All right.
Fantastic. Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great, Robyn.
I'm about 3/4 of the way done.
Wow.
Keltner's pissed you're not writing a book about him. I have to be honest. He's been mentioning it to all of us behind your
The whole day.
Jim, do you want to jump in? I know you have 10,000 Jeff stories, but is there one you could share with us right now? And I'd like to know when you first met Jeff.
Ironic? You know what's really weird? You said that earlier. You said you can share stories. I'm sure you all have great stories with Jeff and everything. And I went, of course. And I started trying to think, and I swear there are a few that I could say maybe if Robyn weren't here.
Just plug her ears.
That is so appropriate in 2022. I am sorry right now. I can't
apologize in front.
So anyway, but no.
Come on, I'm one of the guys.
No, I know, Robyn. I didn't mean, but what I'm saying is that Jeffrey was bigger than any story that I when I think of Jeff, I think of eras for him. When I think of his eyes when he started wearing those glasses that he wore that where his eyes were like it did something to his eyes and it was like it made him look more soulful or something. And I used to talk to him about stuff like that. I could really make him uncomfortable real easy by telling him, how much he put me up with a song that he played on. In those days, it's the same thing with JR. Vinnie, we'd have to see him someplace, and we'd all go to something. But JR, you hear him on the radio. Jeffrey, and Ricky, and so every time that I would hear something and it was Jeff, and then I would see him because I saw him all the time, and I would start talking about it immediately, and he just hated that. He didn't want to hear me talking about how great he was, and because sometimes the bud, if the bud, he always had the best bud. I don't know how else to put it. And in those days, that's why I don't do it anymore, because in those days, man, I just a little bit and I'm gone. And I would be talking about stuff, and about how where the music comes from, and so. But Jeffrey, Jeff knew. I know that Jeff knew that he was a badass. I know that he knew it, but he never ever wanted to appear that way. He just didn't. He worshipped at Vinnie Colaiuta's feet, and he would try to deflect, when I would be talking about him. He would go.
I was first at his feet, right back at him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that I will say this one thing, that he got really, really extra famous from Rosanna, right?
Right.
The drums and everything. And I always like to say that, and this is me being the opposite of Jeffrey. I like to take the credit for having turned him on to Purdy. He had never heard Purdy before. Wow. And I turned him on to With This Ring by the Platters.
Yeah.
Right.
Said, listen to this cat. And he would squeal. We'd listen, and I loved how he squealed when he loved something. And we just sat and listened to it. I said, this shit here this is what I want to do. If I can't do this, I don't want to do anything. And so he went on from there, obviously, and listened to everything that Bernard ever did, and and eventually came up with that beat and credited Bernard for that.
Right.
And I always loved that Jeff did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just talking about that beat, Jim. I was thinking about the Rosanna beat. For some of us at a certain age, you grow up in the 70s, you go into a music store and you'd hear all the guitar players playing like Stairway to Heaven or Smoke on the Water, right? You'd hear in the guitar room, you know, the same. And 1982, when that song came out, every time you went into a drum shop, you'd hear somebody trying to play that beat. That became like the, you know, the drummer thing to the conquest. Like, I got to play. That was just such a, it captured everybody's attention and like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I just remember hearing, and you'd hear some people playing it really bad. But
Yeah.
they were trying.
Everybody was playing it bad.
Yeah, everybody.
It wasn't an easy beat
Operative
to
word is
play
trying.
smoothly.
Yeah, yeah. Greg nails it pretty seriously.
I remember in 1982, the first gig I had when I moved here was the Jerry Lewis Telethon, and Joe Porcaro was playing percussion. And I was going to see Vinnie at the Jib with Dave Boroff, and that song came on the radio, and I pulled my car over. Then I get to the Jib, and Vinnie and Neil Steubenhaus and Michael Fisher and Barnaby Finch, they're all grooving on Rosanna. How about that new Toto song? And I go to this Jerry Lewis Telethon, and Joe Porcaro's playing percussion. I said, "Hey, Joe, great to meet you, man. You want to hear me play Rosanna?" And I was butchering it. And I kind of get through it. And Joe was so nice. He goes, "It's kind of close." It was perfect. It was all wrong, but Joe was so great.
That's kind of close.
That's good.
Yeah.
Men's of men's.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. No, man.
You know,
JMO, were you there when Jeff recorded that?
We started in with Boz Skaggs in '77, and he told me I'm starting my own band, Toto, and went from there. And I would do his setups for his sessions and stuff, and he was like my best friend. We all know what a monster player he was, but I'd like to reflect on him as a guy and, you know, the brother he was to me.
Amen.
We went to the Super Bowl. I had Raider tickets. We went to a bunch of Raider games. He lent me $10,000 to buy my home in 1981.
Nice.
His family, I was from Detroit. I didn't have any family here, and his family's the nicest people you'll ever meet. And I'd always get that call on Thanksgiving and Christmas. "What are you doing? Get your ass over here."
Yeah.
And they always included me. And I'll never forget that. And losing his brother Mike was a real punch in the gut, too. I've got a couple quick stories. I'll go one at a time. You know, I want to, you know, give everybody else a shot. They're all in Robyn's book, but I'm going to tell them because I want to hear them again. And a quick one, I'll never forget, we're at the NAMM show. And everybody wanted to meet the guy. He couldn't walk 5 feet without somebody coming up and introducing him and stuff. And they'd always say, "Oh, you're so great." And like Jimmy Lee said, he didn't want to hear that. For being a bad guy, as bad as he was a very humble person, man. And I remember people always say to him, "Oh, I play drums." "You know, great, I play drums." One time he turned to me, he goes, "Everybody plays drums until you put up a click." And how true that is. So I remember we bumped into Lloyd McCausland, and he was the Remo guy that always took care of us.
Yeah.
And he's called Remo wants to meet you. So a couple hours later, we're walking around. Here's a Remo booth. We go in. So he introduces Jeff to him, and he's like, "Oh, thanks for being with us. I want to show you my new invention." And he had a set of bongos, and the shells were made out of compressed paper. And they made these like bullshit drums with paper shells, right? So he hands Jeff the bongos. They just be, "Oh, they sound great." And the Remo says to him, he goes, "Yeah, these cost me $11 to make." Jeff goes, "That's great." He says, "You can go to Guitar Center, buy a set." He said, "Go to the beach, play on them all day, get drunk, and at the end of the night, throw them in the fire." and Remo was insulted. He just, you know, right over his head and stuff. And I don't know, that's just the kind of guy he was. John, cut me off if I'm going over. Like an A meeting, you get 5 minutes.
You never told me that story, by the way.
I'm saying
book two.
Book two, yeah.
Part two, yeah.
My other favorite one was we went to Miami to do the Bee Gees record. We were there for 3 weeks. And Jeff was really good with his clients or whatever about not burning them or running up big room service tabs or anything like that, right? So they were picking us up, bringing us to the studio. So he gave me his credit card and he said, go get a rent-a-car. So he doesn't know how to drive a stick shift. I've got a bunch of Corvettes and all this stuff, right? So I rented a Mustang convertible with a 5-speed. So we leave the studio that night and we get in the car to go home. And he goes, so what's this shit? I go, it's a stick shift. He goes, I don't know how to drive one. I go, I'm going to teach you. So we went in a Winn-Dixie parking lot and he gets in the thing and he had this fucking mental block. I mean, this guy could play drums like a ballerina. He couldn't give it too much gas and not enough clutch or either or to save his fucking life, right? Stalled the car about 30 times, started yelling at me. I drove us to the hotel. The next day I took it back and got an automatic. But it just proves he was like, it's like a human like the rest of it.
John,
Good, I love you, buddy.
We're going to give, thank you, J-Mo.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, that was great. Vinny, you're the next one. You're the next one in my gallery. So,
Man, I don't. That's some rich stuff there that's coming up.
God, I would not want to follow that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to follow all that either. I mean, that's like. We pulled out both barrels,
Yeah.
and he never had to reload. He just
Kill the rabbit.
a Gatling gun, Yeah,
yeah.
it was amazing.
No,
I will say the same thing. I'll paraphrase that everybody else says that guy was the biggest hearted, most generous, loving guy I've ever met. I mean, they broke the mold with him. He was so uncompetitive. He welcomed everybody. I mean, when I first moved to LA, I mean, I showed up, with all my chops, and I just wanted to blow and play, and Miles and Mahavishnu and just this, that, and the other thing. But I wanted to play everything. I wanted to play just. But the thing is that Jeff understood. He saw what I was about, and he always tried to help me. He stood up for me all the time and defended me. And I just thought, man, this is unbelievable. It's just like, one of the world's greatest drummers ever, who's got my back here. I couldn't understand it, and so he just. I mean, he would do things like, one time I was playing at the Big Potato, and he, and so we're playing, and I closed my eyes, and I think maybe I had sweat in my eyes or something, and my hi-hat broke. And I opened my eyes, and all of a sudden, he must have somehow jumped over I don't know how he got there, but I looked down, and he's on the floor, looking up at me, laughing, fixing my hi-hat while I'm playing, laughing. Like he slithered over there. To him, it was like a big joke, But it was, I mean, he was just that kind of guy, And he was just, use my drums for this session, or can you do this session for me, or can you sub for me here, and just I mean, they really broke the mold with that guy. It's like I think the only other person that has that I that I can think of that has that kind of is Gad,
Yeah.
Steve was like that too. Steve was always like that. He was always like that with me. And I know a lot of other people too, but Jeff was like one of a kind, man. He had the greatest time feel, and it can be imitated, but never exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things you can never quite, like you can play Rosanna really well and make a groove, but the way he did it, it's just on this other plane that
Right.
it just belongs to him. It only belongs to him.
Right.
And so he has just, and I remember we were doing this Los Lobotomies, David, you remember that when we were doing that at the complex.
Oh, yeah.
And we were playing all blues, and I got a chance to feel what it was like to play with him. Whereas I would have to be a bass player, a keyboard player, guitar player. No, I finally got my chance to feel what it felt like, and it was like riding on a cloud, man. It was the most unbelievable, indescribable feeling. How amazing it felt to play along with him. It's just, it was so accommodating and just effortless and amazing, man. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that time. That was one of the best highlights of just my musical experience. Was doing that. And Heart of Gold, man. A Heart of Gold. There will never be another Jeff. And here we are talking about the 30 years today. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to fathom that.
Right.
Because it's gone by so fast.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here reeling. And I wish I had funnier anecdotes. And I'm cracking up listening to all you guys. Excuse me, talking, but man, I just, I'm just more in a kind of a reverent, kind of mode, thinking about him and just, I don't know.
That's beautiful, Vinnie. I was thinking about what Jim said about how humble he was, and my experience with him, limited as it was exactly what you said, Jim, in terms of he sincerely felt like, guys like Vinnie got, he couldn't come close to anybody technically. And Vinnie, I remember you and I talking about this many years ago at a dinner, and we were talking about Jeff. And we were saying how he was such a badass technically, but the first thing you think about with Jeff is just his amazing time feel, right? I mean, that's what we're all, that's what we love. So, I mean, as drummers, we love the groove and we love that. But I remember saying, you saying, Vinnie, like he had tons of chops. He just knew how to use them for, like Superman, he used him for good. He saved him from when he needed him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. It's like he definitely did. He had tons of chops, and it's like I don't know what it is about the drums that people obsess about with, chops or no chops. Like I mean, you don't hear other instrumentalists talk about that in that regard. It's like, what is it? Technique just means by way of. It's like how you do something, and it's very nuanced. And in order to play the way he played, and he had chops, he could play fast, he could play, he could play really good, man. He could do it all. Man, the thing is that we're talking about touch and all kinds of little nuanced things in order to play accurately. And the way that he would do that. I mean, that's all part and parcel of technique, but he made it work for him. He made all that stuff work for him, and he just played music, man. He's just a constant musician with the greatest instincts. It's unbelievable. Right. Unbelievable. Just magical.
Jim, were you going to say something? Were you going to add something?
I was just going to say that the first time that I heard him play, when I first met him, he was just a kid. I think he was like 17 or 16 or something. Robyn knows better than I do about that. But he was just a kid, and and we were setting up, and I remember I had my back to him, and he was already set up, and I heard this stuff happening behind me, and I turned around, and I watched him play this stuff, and I said, "Man, that sounds like Vinnie, man. Where'd you get this
Right?
guy?" I mean, really, he just plays inside out shit, like, you know, and fast and accurate, and beautiful, precise, and everything, all the stuff that, you know, that I know. So he's playing this stuff, and I go, where'd you get that? You must have got that from your dad, right? And he never wanted to talk about that. He had a kind of a thing about that, and so he kind of glossed over it, and then we played the session. We were playing together, and it wasn't a special thing, any kind of special thing. The music wasn't, you know, special really in any kind of way, but we did our thing, and that was it. And I walked away thinking about this young kid, you know. And then the next thing, the next time he came into my consciousness was with Silk Degrees, the record.
Yeah.
And I listened to that, and I went, oh my God. So that's that kid. And I mean, I had known him. We had a little bit of a friendship relationship, obviously, but when that record came out, I realized that he had that gift of, like what Vinnie was saying, of being able to have chops but not use them. And so that's a very big lesson. That's a lesson that a lot of people will never have a problem with, right? But there are guys, like every one of the guys I'm looking at right now have that problem at one time or another, and had to realize how to figure out how to leave it at home and come and bring who you are, your gut, you know, your heart-mind connection, without the tools. And that, you know, that makes the difference in whether you continue doing this kind of thing or not. Jeff,
and I'll just
absolutely epitomize that.
I was just going to say too, Jim, he was 22 years old when he made Silk Degrees. So to be that young and know how to leave those chops at home, you know what I mean? It's, if you were 32, you know what I mean? I think when you're 22, it's easy to just, if you're Superman, you want to leap tall buildings, you know, and you can understand that. So he had that discipline really young, that maturity.
You know, he did everything very young, even dying.
Yeah.
That's horrible. And I still can't get over the fact that he was 38 years old. I can't even.
I know.
You know, at 38.
So crazy.
You know, that's weird. But you know, I strongly believe in God, and I believe that there's a path for all of us that has been commissioned already before, you know.
Yeah.
And I believe that Jeff, you know, he did, for somehow or another, he fulfilled whatever it was, you know, that he was supposed to fulfill, and he got out of here.
Right.
Yeah. We'll know those things later. Right now, they're only talk, you know.
Right on. JR, do you have I know you don't have as much time as everybody here because you got a session, but is there a story or a memory you want to share?
And I hope I have as much time as these guys. I'm just kidding. I'm fucked. All right. Let me. Vinnie C and I used to live in Boston, and I remember listening to all these great drummers that were in LA, but the one that jumped out, and Jim also, was Jeff, a young Jeff, you know, Diamond Girl. And when I first moved to Los Angeles with Rufus, within that week, I got a phone call from Jeff wanting me to sub for him at the Hollywood Bowl with Cher. And I'm going, damn, how generous is this? The guy was so generous that
he was that guy.
You know, he was that guy. And it was like, not only, and somebody said about him not being competitive, he didn't have to be competitive because he was just so confident within his skin that he welcomed me with open arms. There was never, ever a competition. And are a couple of quick stories. We were managed by Mark Hartley and Larry Fitzgerald. They're good or bad with Rufus. And we get a phone call from Mark saying, you guys all come down to the office. We want to talk to you about something. And I was hoping it was a better gig, but it wasn't. They go, you know how they are. Anyway, they go, we want to sign this band called Toto. I go, fuck yeah, we knew all the guys, and they asked us permission, which I thought actually was admirable, to get some official management for Toto. And I think that was in, I don't know, 78 or something like that. And I was like, geez, everybody said, sign these guys, because it makes us look better. And one other thing Jeff and I we got in trouble many times, which we won't talk about. But I was grateful that Jeff Porcaro, didn't he throw his tom at Richard Perry's glass at Studio 55?
No, he did.
Huh?
That was me.
That was who?
That was me.
Oh, that was you?
That was Rick.
Well, fuck.
I think it was Ricky Lee Jones, wasn't it? That he threw something at?
Was that at Studio 55?
No, that wasn't.
What?
I guess Rick threw his tom-tom.
Okay, well, whatever Jeff did to piss Richard Perry off, I'm grateful, because I ended up getting the Pointer Sisters account after that. So, and I'm going to just close with one other thing.
I got to tell you something. I was doing the Pointer Sisters record when I threw the toms across the room. So fuck you. You can thank me.
I'm thanking you. All right, I'm thanking you. I'm just sorry. You didn't really hit him.
I like the guy.
The glass stopped it.
Well, we're going to leave that alone. But one thing about Jeff that, and Vinnie will attest, and we always were thrust in with Yamaha and whomever to do these drum clinics. Monkey in the cages. And Jeff had the balls to say no. And I was like, God, that takes some serious nad to be able to say, I can play like this, but I don't want to. I don't have to. Yeah. And I just admired him for, his presence will be felt for all of eternity.
Right.
As long as we are able to hear these songs. And he's made such an impression on everybody on this panel.
Yep.
And every little kid that doesn't even know. And may his presence always reign forever. I miss your man.
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Yep. That's great. That's beautiful, John. Thank you. Maybe Rick, maybe you can, we'll segue to a story from you on that one.
I know this is going to I can't stay. We're on the East Coast here, so I just want to say this real quickly. I won't take up a lot of your time because we all have a lot of stories, but I want to say a couple of things. You can't mention Jeff without mentioning the rest of his family, because he was a product of that family. And when I first came to LA, not only did he welcome me there, and everything that everybody said, Vinnie, JR, Jim, everybody knows this. He was the most generous guy. I'm going to attest to that. Did the same thing with me. He offered to do anything he could to help me. I remember when he was doing the Fagan's record, and then Donald called me and he goes, Jeff's on the record and we've worked a few days. And he said, I'm not the right guy for this. Marotta should be doing this record. And the next thing you know, I'm over at Jeff's house where they were recording Fagan's record, and Jeff's sitting in the control room while I'm playing on the record.
Oh man,
that's great.
That's the kind of guy he was. But I want to just say, you got to mention. I'm not going to tell a bunch of stories, which I have. We'll do it. We should do this more often. But I want to say that Joe Porcaro was a mentor to all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mike Porcaro, one of the nicest guys in the world. I still hear from Steve Porcaro every once in a while. I got a text from him last week, or I get a call from him going, "Yo, what's up, Steve? What are you doing? Just checking to see how you are, man." That's the kind of he comes. That's where Jeff came from.
Yeah.
And The other thing I want to say is I feel honored to be on this with these guys that I'm looking at here, all of them, because it proves that we're not just a bunch of dumb guys that drop our sticks. This is a bunch of really smart, successful people I'm looking at with an incredible amount of talent, all talking about another man with an enormous amount of talent who threw his sticks at the Skins too. So
Right.
I just think it's something that everyone should understand. When you look at people like JR and Keltner and Gary Mallaber and everybody here, Jody Cortez, I don't want to leave any names out. These are a bunch of really good, smart people, and every one of you deserves this kind of testimonial when you're dead. And I hope I'm there to do it.
I was waiting for it.
That was great.
Yeah, Rick.
I mean it. I mean it about all of you. We don't get to be around each other all the time. We run into people. We run into each other in different places. We're not always playing together. Although I have played together with JR. I have played with I think I've played with Jody. With Vinnie, of course, I have, and with Gregg. Sure, I have with Gregg, and
Yeah.
we were all really lucky. And Jim Keltner, God, doing a Lennon record because of Keltner. But it's just, I just want to say, the one memory I want to share is about 2 years ago, I was in Ireland. I was playing golf, and I was in the clubhouse, and I saw Susan Porcaro. It's like, it was really weird.
That is weird.
I walked over to her. I said, "Excuse me," and I knew her name was Susan Goings. And I said, "Excuse me, Susan." And she looked at me. She goes, "Rick." And I had been, of course, we probably were all there. I was at his wedding. He invited me to the wedding. He did, that's the family. I'm going to make it quick. Susan said, "It's so great to see you." We sat and talked. It was all I could do to control myself. And she said, "I want to show you something." When Jeff died, she was a news person, as you all know. And when he died, they did a story, and she said, "I don't really want to run this story." It wasn't on the news, the big story. And she said, "I want to show you something. I just got the video of his funeral from the story." And she pulls it up, and there's me, JR, Jim Keltner, Mike Baird. Oh, I can't remember who else.
Harvey.
Willie Arnellis.
Willie Arnellis. Mike
Lenny
Baird.
Castro.
Lenny Castro.
Lenny doing that march from the big auditorium to the that was, and I remember, and I said that was one of the hardest times of my life ever, having to pick up a pair of drumsticks, walking from there, and it was us. I'm looking at some of the guys that were there, and when she showed it to me, I just broke down.
Yeah.
This is 2 years ago in Ireland, and I remembered, and that some of you guys, Dave, Garfield was there, I'm sure. I don't know if Gary was there, but of course J-Mo and Harry. But I just wanted to mention that that was a memory I have of him after his passing, and how lucky I was. I kind of had to, it was lucky and unlucky, but I got to relive it with Susan right there. And she just said, "How weird this," she goes, "I just got this."
Wow.
Hey guys, can I just to segue from what Rick said, just a little while ago, I got an email from Steve Porcaro. I'd invited Steve, and he had something happening today, but he sent a nice note. I'm going to read it to you really quickly. First of all, we lost Mike Lang today, who was a dear, dear friend and hero to us all. You should start off acknowledging him.
What? Mike Lang passed away?
That's what Steve said.
Today?
Yeah, which is a eerie coincidence in itself.
Every day, it's somebody every day.
Yeah, it's fucked up, man.
Wait, Mike Lang?
Oh, that's not. No.
Oh, man.
Well, that's what this is just from Steve just a few minutes ago. And he said, if you could read this, I'd appreciate it. Besides his kids and family, Jeff had a deep love for his fellow musicians, especially fellow drummers. Anyone who knew Jeff knew that he loved to hang, and could talk drummers, and music till the cows came home. You guys know what I'm talking about. He really took great joy in talking up his fellow drummers, legends and new guys alike. On Toto tracking sessions, while the tune was taking shape and he was putting a part together, he would point out from who and where he copped different aspects of what he was going to do. It's just like what you were saying, Jim, about Bernard. Then he'd make it entirely his own, only like he could, and give it a veneer like he'd been playing that beat for 20 years. As brothers, we could bump heads often, but as drummer, he without a doubt made my music better than I could ever imagine every single time. I got spoiled. I think he did that for a lot of people. Really miss him today, and I know he's loved by all you guys. Love, Steve P. So, thanks, Steve. Man, yeah. And I'm sorry to be the one to break that news to you guys. I just was reading
shocking
message.
God,
yeah.
So young.
Really shocking.
Greg, I want to share this photo while we're live here. Because it's such a great photo, and it'll cheer everybody up, I hope. Hang on a second, and have you tell a story about your friend. Hold on a second. Try this again. I'm new in town, fellas. Don't mind me.
Try the deal.
Talk amongst yourselves. All right, anyway, this is a great photo.
Aw.
We saw that one.
Oh, there you go.
So cute.
That was that like at a Pearl Day or something?
You know what that was,
did?
Johnny? That was I had gone to see Toto play at the Raymond Theater in Pasadena, which is no longer there, but it was a great gig. And I remember Alex Van Halen and Eddie Van Halen were there, and a bunch of the guys in David Lee Roth band were there. And Jeff again deflected because we were looking right there at Alex Van Halen. and Jeff, I think Lissa Wales took that. And then what happened was Alex was on the other side of the camera, and Jeff was deflecting again and saying, "Look, man, there he is right there. That's the granddaddy of taking Billy Cobham's Spectrum, but then making it into Hot for Teacher and playing double bass, in Van Halen. And as much as we loved Van Halen, that's the guy right there. He was deflecting right there to Alex." That's just what Jeff would always do. I remember right after that, there was the NAMM show, and my dad, who was my hero and my drum hero, it was at the Pearl booth, and Jeff and I were with Pearl at the time, and everybody's sitting there signing autographs, on their posters, which when you think about it, it's kind of jive, but it's what they did at the NAMM show. And there'd be lines of people and all these drummers signing. And my dad walked up to Jeff and gave him a Sharpie and goes, "Hey, you should get in line." And Jeff was so funny. My dad kept retelling this story. He kept saying, Oh, no, thanks, man. No, thanks. Like, I'm not going to sign a poster of me. It was just so cool. He was so humble. Why would I get in line and sign a poster of me? It was just so Jeff, deflecting and just being humble and like, yeah, no, that's cool. No, let everybody else sign. I don't want to sign. Yeah. I love that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Man,
Yeah. Let me just say one thing real quick. It's funny, how the older guys are supposed to be influential on the younger guys. Jeffrey became such an old soul so quickly in my life that I found that he influenced me in a lot of ways. And I'm sure he did on a lot of the older guys too.
Oh, yeah.
That's just one of the things that he brought to the table as a young man,
Hey, Jim,
old soul.
Why don't you tell that story about the city of New Orleans?
What?
The one you told at his funeral.
Oh,
you don't remember?
I'm not sure if I remember. I'm sorry.
Well, can I tell it for you?
Yeah.
Actually, maybe you didn't tell it. It was you did. Anyway, it was like a deal where this kid, Jeff, was following him around, studio after studio, and he's kind of like, who the hell is this kid? And he wanted to shadow Jim wherever he went. So Jim kind of got into it, and he goes, listen, I'm doing this session tonight, so you can sit right behind me. And it was the city of New Orleans or something like that. And so he starts to look around behind him, and he's like playing brushes, but he's like kind of trying to impress this guy. And, you know, in the middle of it, or at the end, he's like, it's over. And he was like, he was soundless.
Yeah, that's a little bit different than, because he never followed me around. That's, first of all, that's not accurate. What he did was he asked me, I think, at some point. And I'm kind of like him in that respect. Like, I don't know, man. I don't, you know, I just want to play. I don't want to be somebody watching me and all. But I knew something about him. It was okay. So when he was back there watching, I was paying attention. I'm focused on what I'm doing. And I don't know, brushes or whatever it was. I remember playing real good. And then I look back and he's snoring.
Let's go with your version.
Classic.
Oh, man. That's great.
Oh, my.
Hey, Rick, I found that photo finally. That's the photo I was looking for. Yeah, from Robyn's. This is from Robyn's roundtable.
That's a great picture.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Elvin Jones on the cover.
I know, and there's Elvin.
Yeah.
The trifecta right there. Look at that. Couple of handsome Italian boys right there.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Robyn. Now you go, girl.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Every time.
Well, we should. I'd love to hear Rich tell a story, and Jody. Yeah, let's keep it going. And of course, David Garfield. You know, we may devote an entire show to some Los Lobotomy stories.
I'm a token non-drummer, so
Your first instrument was drums, Davey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only problem if Garfield starts telling a story, it's like his solos. They never bloody. I remember Dave called me to play a gig with him once, and I said, I love your playing, man, but I can't. I'm just not good enough to play those solos. They're going forever. And he said, don't worry about it, man. We're going to do it. We're going to go bang, next tune, bang, next tune. Okay, we'll do it. I rehearse with them. We bang in the rehearsal, bang, next tune, bang. We get it on the bandstand. We were playing the first song. 15 minutes into it, I'm screaming, stop fucking soloing! I don't know what to play next. I said to John, if David Garfield starts talking, I got to take a break because I know that it's going to be like on a solo.
No, we got to.
Well, that's a great setup. Anyway, I'll tell you a really quick story and then I'm out. Jeff's mom, in case you didn't know this, Aileen, the reason Jeff had such a great natural groove is she burped him to the swing beat, this ride cymbal beat.
There you go.
That's one thing.
Yep.
And the other thing was, the very quick story was I got the honor of writing a tune with Jeff and for the Los Lobotomys record, and he had it all figured out, and he had a whole groove. It's called Big Barn. He was singing it to me. He had a bass line for it, the whole thing. That's all he had. He said, write the rest. But it was so cool to watch his eyes light up. He knew exactly what he wanted. It's a great song. Yeah. And one of the most popular songs from that. And then he also said he wanted Miles Davis kind of muted trumpet on it. He knew exactly. He sang me the lick. So that was cool. I'll never forget that, standing in the house. And then to close, Carlos Vega, who we should mention, just loved the class of 1971. Jim Keltner and Jeff Porcaro together. That's all I heard about when I started hanging out with Carlos was Jim Keltner and Jeff Porcaro. So rest in peace, Jeff.
Yes, Jeff.
Yeah.
Can I tell a David Garfield Jeff story?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, it's a baked potato, and they're playing all blues, and Dave gives Jeff a little break, and Jeff never wanted to play drum solos. He just didn't want to do it. He's like, no. And finally, Dave goes, bam, and there's a break. And to this day, if you go to the Baked Potato and you look behind where the drums are and you see Tom Breckline's poster, Jeff stood up with his sticks and wasn't thinking about Tom Breckline's poster being there. He just stood up with the sticks and didn't play. He just looked around at the wall and went, bam, and he hit the wall with 2 sticks. They're both in Tom Breckline's eyeballs.
Oh my God.
To this day, I was there last week and they're still there.
Oh man.
That's great.
Oh,
David,
that's great.
you got Jeff, you and Jeff did so many gigs at the Potato,
Oh
man.
my God. Yeah.
Lobotomies and everything. So
Yeah.
what a great way to get to hear and see Jeff up close with you.
I did
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
only Jeff clinic. It was great.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. Was that Minnesota? Wasn't that Minnesota or something?
Yeah, man, he picked me up at 6 in the morning and took me to the
Right.
airport.
Wow.
Yeah. He didn't want to do those things. We'd asked him to do clinics. He would never want to do. He never wanted to do them. But
Yeah.
He was smart.
yeah. Well, I have a quick story because we were talking earlier, David, there's the poster behind David that is the poster that we did with Jeff in the late 80s. And then David reminded me of the NAMM show that right around that time, it was late 80s, where I had David and Jeff and Mike play in the booth. We started having players in the booth every year, and they were very gracious to say yes and play 3 sets a day in the booth. And on one of the I think it was the first day we started, it was Super Bowl Sunday weekend. And it was, so we went through the weekend, it was Sunday. They walk in and Jeff just looks at me and goes, "Where's the TV? Where's the TV, man?" And he was looking in my eyes and I thought, oh, I'm in trouble. I didn't think of the Super Bowl. You know, he's like, "Man, we got to have the TV. I'm not playing unless you get the TV in the corner, you know, for the game." And then that same day, he says, "I want to introduce you to somebody." And he goes, "I want to introduce you to this kid." And he says, "This is Dave Laboyle Jr. He's going to sit in with us today." Do you remember that, David?
I do. Yeah.
He was 16, just about to go to Berkeley. And that's the first time I met him. I had met his dad, and he had him play with you guys. I'll never forget that.
Hey, I got a quick
Jeff.
Yeah. I got a quick story, and then I got a bowl. Jeff and I, you just remembered, and Don Lombardi at shit. What was the name of that music
World
store in
Music.
Simi, at Simi Valley?
World Music.
World Music
Yeah.
judged a drum festival. Jeff and I, and Jerry Andreas and Don Lombardi and Alex Acuna, and young Abe was 15 and a half.
Yeah.
And Jeff and I just looked at each other. We go, 10, winner. There was like 27 dudes.
Yeah.
In 2 categories. Abe Jr. won. So
yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I hate to run, but I got to get out of here. And I want to thank Johnny D, the king, and everybody
Thanks,
on this. We need to hang more. You know, this. I think Ricky's right, man.
Let's do this tomorrow night.
And Jim,
I feel bad too because I have to go and I have a session at 5, and if I'm not there, my therapist will be really pissed.
oh, geez.
What are you? In charge anyway.
I know my grandkids will be
I
pissed.
gotta go because I'm on the East Coast and it's way past my dinner time.
Oh, geez.
I love you guys.
I love you guys.
JR and Greg, thank
John
you guys.
Good, I'll talk to you. Johnny D, talk.
Great to see you all.
Thanks, JR.
I love all you
Thanks,
guys.
Greg. Love
Bye,
you guys
Robyn.
too, John. Thank you.
Yo, JR.
Thank you. Thank you. Stan, you have a great story that you told me once. I would love for you to tell it when you first moved to LA.
Yeah, I just got to California, probably mid 70s, and I'm, stone broke and living in Laurel Canyon in a basement, and my Volkswagen bus had broken down, and I'm kind of half-heartedly hitchhiking up to my basement, and a beautiful BMW eases over to the curb and rolls down the window. "You need a lift?" And I don't know Jeff, and he doesn't know me, and I don't know anything about Jeff Porcaro, but I just know some cool dude with really great looking shades and a beautiful car, and it's air conditioned, and he looks great. He's the clothes. It's just all, and so yeah, I hop in. I'm like, he goes, he asked the perfect question. "You a musician?" Because long hair, Laurel Canyon. "Yeah, I play drums." "Hey, I play drums." He goes, he goes, well, just why don't you pop in, man? And so I go over to his house, which is already fully realized as a young man. He's already has style, and his home is white and it's beautiful. And there's a Revox reel-to-reel tape machine, and it's extraordinary. There's art on the walls, and he's probably 2 years older than me, maybe. We're technically we're on the same plane, but this is like one of the things is not like the other. And, and he's eloquent, and he's cool, and he's just, and I don't even know why he's being cool to me, but so we're sitting there talking, and he's got a pack of Marlboro Reds. You want a cigarette? Sure. You want to burn one? Yeah, sure. It's the best weed and I'm from Florida. I have pretty good knowledge of weed, but this shit is like some other level. And so now we're getting stoned. We're talking a little drums, and he's going like, oh yeah, you guys from Florida, right? You got a band from Florida. He goes like, what, like Leonard Skinner? Like, not really, but that was sort of his way of trying to maybe even like, but anyway, it keeps going on and on. Finally, he just goes, yeah, I just did a session, and he spins, and I swear, unless I'm wrong, it was probably Black Friday. He had just cut for Steely Dan, and I'm pretty sure that was the track he played me, like on a reel-to-reel, and it just knocked my dick in the dirt. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It's like, because it was preempted by him going like, yeah, you guys do a little recording? Yeah, we're down at this little place called Shelter. We're trying to put something together and blah, blah. He goes, well, here's what I'm into, like, here's what I just did last night. And it was so next level, and it was stunning. Then the capper, he puts me back in his car and drives me to my shithole, and basically just says, nice meeting you. And then at that point, the nickels start to drop, in the next couple of days. I met this cat, Jeff Porcaro. Oh, yeah, he's badass. Then it's like, but it was just, that was my intro to this guy. Like when you're talking about his kindness and his class and his dignity, and it's just, as a young buck, he was holding 4 aces way before I even knew what those cards looked like. And it's just unbelievable. And then, I was in a band where there's a biosphere and everybody's uptight. You guys know about bands. It's weird. And so I go to a Toto session. I think I was starting to do some writing. So I'm in a session, and you walk into a Toto session, I'm expecting it to be like cold and odd. They're all hugging each other, and and Jeff goes out to play a track, and it was this very complicated over the double bass drum kind of feeling track. It was Cooch producing, very aggressive. It wasn't double bass, but it had a break down the walls. Yes, exactly. It was very complicated, and I had no idea what a man would even play on this. Like, I'm thinking boom, schmeck, boom, schmeck. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. Well, he sits down and he takes one pass at it to orient himself, but it was a groove. It was a track as far as I was concerned, but he's just kind of almost doing it with one hand. He's adjusting. And then he said, all right, give me one, give me a pass, and then the whole band pressed to the window, like the whole band in love and respect and encouragement. And he knocked this thing out of the park, like really first pass. And it's a deep track. And it just blew my mind. Then he nailed it, walks in, orders like a hoagie, smokes a Marlboro Red, puts his full man bag on, looks like $1 million, puts his shades on. He goes, sorry, Cass, I got to blow, man. I got another session next door. I'll be back to get my sandwich in a minute. And everybody's just like hugging and loving it. I couldn't get over what I had just seen, like my first, I think I told him, I said, yeah, I have actually met you before. You picked me up on the street once. But every time I would run into him, it was like, there was an elegance about him. I don't even know how to speak to it, but it was, and Jim said, like, it was something about, he was almost, he was old and he wasn't. But the dignity and the sound, that's the thing I got to read. The groove, everybody talks about the groove. Yeah, his sound, man. It was like, and he was poking those drums beautifully. He was pulling the sound out of them. He had no disrespect for a drum, man. It was coming out like you watch the stick go in and it come out just as beautifully. And there were small sticks, and he was playing politely, and it was just something to see, man. It kind of fucked me up, and it still fucks me up thinking about it. And I would love to be able to tell him to his face if he were here, man. I want you to know how much you're loved and respected and admired, and we're all just blown away by what you did. And I did, and plus sitting on this dais with you guys, I'm still kind of crapping my pants, going, really? I'm all you cats. You guys are all beautiful people, and like was said before, you're smart, you're resourceful. You've pulled it off, man. You guys have really left a beautiful mark, and I'm honored to be in your company. I really am.
Well, you left a beautiful mark, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
No
Yeah, absolutely, Stan. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. No,
I feel really fortunate to be here with you cats, and if you could put me down for once a month, I'd love to just listen, just to audit this has been beautiful for me.
Hey,
Amen.
hey, John, can you hear me?
Yeah, Jody. Yep.
Beautiful. Hey, let me just say something real quick. I grew up in the Porcaro house. I was really lucky. Joe Porcaro was my teacher, and I was in a band with Steve Porcaro in 1972. And Jeff's studio, he made it look this hippie den that was amazing. He did stuff as an artist, as a young kid, that was just mind blowing, let alone his drumming, But I grew up with this guy, and when I went to Europe, I did my high school years in Europe, and I came back. The first I bumped into him, he goes, "Listen, I want you to play with Larry Carlton." I said, "Forget it, dude. I just heard the record. Give me a year to get my shit together, Yeah. And at the end of that year, he calls me, he goes, "Get down to Leeds, And I get there, and he goes, "I want you to play with Boz." And so that's what started my career with Jeffrey, being, in charge of the reins. He had this god-like thing where he could make shit happen like no one else, And he gave everything away. He gave us all shit, man. He gave us all drums, and he gave me, when I first got back from Germany, I didn't have a drum kit. So he gave me his Ludwig kit that he did Silk Degrees with. And, so Jeffrey was very, very, very instrumental in my life. And I have so many stories. We'd hang on the weekends and play backgammon and do illicit drugs and shit, but listen to records, and Rick and Keltner were our go-to, he loved these guys so much, man. But Jeffrey was just, there was only one of him. And I'm honored to be on this staff, on this panel with you guys. Thank you, Johnny.
Oh, you're welcome, Jody. Thank you for being here, brother. Yeah, you belong. The very handsome Gary Mallaber, who is not here once but twice, which the more Gary Mallaber, the better, I say. But Gary, I was thinking about this today because I hadn't heard from you, and then when you said, "I'm traveling, but I think I can jump on," and thank you for being here, by the way, because you've been so busy. You did a record with Bruce at the same time Jeff did a record with Bruce, right? You did Lucky Town. Yeah. Jeff did Human Touch. Right. And were they done somewhat concurrently, if I remember right, like about 30 years ago?
I think Human Touch was first. I worked on that.
Yeah, Russ, you were there. Yeah, okay. Human Touch was first. Yeah. Okay. But released at the. Say that again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Gary. Yep. Yes. Yep.
Okay. Everyone, wonderful being part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Everyone. And they were done, Human Touch was first. And I don't want to get into the falling out Bruce had sometime there with the E Street guys. That's not to be discussed. I don't know really what went on. But before you knew it, Jeff was doing in the studio they were working on all the material with for Human Touch. So if you guys know Bruce the way I now know him, he could go in on a weekend and come back out with an album written. So Friday night, there's nothing there. Sunday night, there's an entire album of 12 songs. And that's exactly what he did. after he finished that album, and Jeff played beautifully on it. And I said, well, there might be more. But 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I get a call from Chuck Plotkin and Toby Scott, and they said, he wants to do something else. He just wrote another album, and we're going to release them both at the same time. And that's exactly what happened.
Right, right.
So
yeah, and did you, and you obviously, you must have a story or two about Jeff.
Well, you know, this is in perfect proportion because, to be honest with you, my time with Jeff was more of when we were both, all of us living over in Studio City and off of Ventura Boulevard and near Dixie Canyon. And our careers were really moving quickly and violently through the music industry. There was no time. My few times that I did hang out with Jeff was mostly at the recording studio called Village Recordings over on Brooklyn Street on the 405 freeway. And we would run into each other then and just really kid around. And really never got to know each other beyond that because we were moving quickly. I mean, you know those years. And that's what happened. We were moving fast and constant. And I didn't spend a lot of time with Jeff. We just kind of fool around in the hallways over at Village on different projects and just tell each other you should learn how to hold the sticks better. Stuff like that. That was it. And they're shot all over the place, and all of a sudden, you know, I connected up with Steve Miller, and that went on for 20 years, and everybody was moving fast. You know that. Everyone there knows how fast those years were.
Yeah,
they didn't stop. It was moving quick, and it
really productive time. Yeah, amazing amount of music that came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It's still going in a different way, but luckily we were at the right time there at the right time. I knew his dad very well, and his mom and his sister Jolene because of our residence in the Studio City, Sherman Oaks area.
Yeah.
And, they're wonderful, special people, you know.
Yeah, wonderful people. Well,
Thank
young
you for
Harry.
having me on.
Yeah, Gary, thank you for being here today. Thank you. I was listening to.
I'm in Oregon, John.
It's warm up there.
I found a way to get on, and I got you on a phone and a computer, and I'm going, okay, I can't lose these guys. I'm with a great set of people here. So, and it's like the Pony Express. So it's working. Thank God it's working. Okay.
It's great. It's great. I was going to ask handsome Harry McCarthy to tell a story or two about working with Jeff.
Well, John, thanks for bringing us all together. Years ago, I moved out to LA. I drove Rick's car, one of his cars, out to LA. Got a job through the help of him pretty quickly at Leeds, which was the big cartage company at the time. And I remember, you know, growing up and seeing Jeff's name on so many records, couldn't wait to see him in person or meet him. Leeds did a lot of the cartage for all the Porcaros at the time. So a delivery came up to Jeff's studio on Hesby. I remember taking a piece of gear. I think it was just a DX7 or whatever it was. And I pull into the studio, get it in, you know, come in his driveway, pull it in through the studio door. I see Jeff in the control room. I was like a little nervous. He comes out. He remembered my name because I had met him a few times. Hey, Har, come check this out. Come in the control room. I got to play you something. Sits me down at the console and plays me Somewhere Tonight off of Fahrenheit, the reggae type feel. And it was beautiful. And I'm just a delivery guy. He had a way of making everybody feel important and at ease around him. Fast forward a couple of years later, I get asked to go out on the road working for him with Toto. Toto had a show opening up for Rod Stewart. It was a one-off in Puerto Rico. So there was rental backline gear. And when I got to the gig in the morning, the kit was on the loading dock and I almost fell over. The drum set was really, really beat up. And I was like, oh my God. I put a set of heads on it, got it all set up. Jeff shows up with the rest of the guys in the band for sound check. And I said, Jeff, you got a minute to take a look at the kit? And he looked at it and he had a big smile. I never forgot this. And he went, play and wave, babe. And I had never heard that before. He could care less about the condition of the drum set. And Toto blew away Rod Stewart off the stage that night.
Sure.
One other last thing is John Good was working as a drum tech on Madonna's record, Like a Prayer. He started the project and recommended me to go in. I guess John had other things going on.
Making drums.
Yeah, he was making a few drums. Anyway, it was at Pat Leonard's studio in Burbank.
Yeah.
I get there and there was a DW kit and Jeff came in. Jonathan Moffat played on some of it, but then Jeff came in one day and had a cigarette in his mouth. And somebody in the studio said, Jeff, you got to put that out. You can't smoke. And he was like, he was pissed. Goes out in the alley behind the studio to finish his cigarette, came in, sat down behind the drums, put his headphones on. They played him the track. I was in the control room after putting his cymbals up. And he played the song. I think it's Cherish.
Yes.
One take, and Patrick Leonard, who was producing, just said, hey, Jeff, wow, that's amazing. Let us take a listen. Next thing you know, Jeff, you nailed it. We're done. So he was in and out of that studio in less than an hour. Never went in the control room, never socialized. I took his cymbals down, walked him out to the alley. I was like, where are you going? He goes, Ocean Way. And it was like, wow. And then one last thing is only a few weeks ago, I'm out with my wife running errands and she's got satellite radio. 4 songs in a row came on. 30 years later, Michael McDonald, Keep Forgetting, Seals and Crofts, Diamond Girl, Low Down in 99. 4 songs back to back, 30 years later. And I was trying to explain it to my wife going, he's still living.
Yeah.
A great feeling. So
Oh,
he made everybody feel really good about themselves. I remember just him in the studio. Ross and JMO could probably elaborate. He talked to everybody. Studio receptionist, the assistant engineer, everybody that was out on the road with us. So love you, Jeff. Thank you, John, for bringing us together.
Yeah.
Thanks, Harry. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I'd love to hear from John Good, and we're going to hear from Ross too, because I kind of, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to make this short because it's congruent with what he said. I was there and I was tuning the drums and I realized, oh my God, I made these drums. I'm tuning these drums for Jeff. And he comes in and he goes, babe, can you retune this stuff? I mean, a little higher. I thought, oh God, and it was that Cherish thing. And so I was kind of disgusted by, being criticized by tuning. Went outside in that little hang room where you could sit there. And he came in and sat next to me. He goes, drums are fine. I was just kidding with you. That's about all I got.
You gotta push your buttons.
John, that's great, man. That's gold. Yeah. I think Vinny's gone now, but I think he was the one that told me that one of Jeff's great lines was, and I'm sure Jim or any of you guys that really knew him well can confirm this. Creechy, maybe you could, that he'd walk up to you and he'd go, "Hey man, those are some nice shoes. They make those for guys too?" You know, like he had all those great, you know, timeless ball busting lines, you know, that I try to use whenever I can. You know, I say it to Rick all the time when I see him.
Look how much time he was with Emil.
Yeah,
so Emil had so many of those lines.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, John. So Ross, I know you spent a lot of time with him, and you know, listening to those records, and I know JMO was there for the Silk Degree stuff, but like towards the later 80s, his snare drum sound really was like, to me, like evolving. And I wasn't going to get too heavy technical on like the gear side of it, but I think he was using some Brady stuff like for some
towards
of the
end. Yes.
Yeah, towards the end
he had some Brady drums, but he always gravitated towards. I think it was like a 5-inch Black Beauty mostly, and 6.5 on a lot of on the heavier stuff, the fatter stuff. But he did like that Brady kit. He hooked up with Chris Brady, and he was trying to help Chris out, I think is what was going on.
Yeah. So he was using more than just the snare drum. Snare drums. He was playing a full kit on some of the recordings. Yeah.
He had a kit. He had a Jera kit from Brady.
Right.
But I didn't want to geek out on the gear. I mean, we could talk about gear all day long.
Yeah.
The story I wanted to tell was when he was working with Springsteen. We were working on that Human Touch record together. And after the record was over, Bruce wanted Jeff to go on the road with him. And I got a phone call one day. He goes, "Hey man, if I go out on the road with Springsteen, would you go out with me?" And I said, "Well, I'd have to think about it. You know, that's kind of a big change from what I'm doing. I've got this thing going here in town." He goes, "I'm not planning on doing that. I just want to know if, just in case." So a little while goes by. He calls me back. He goes, "Hey, Bruce just offered me a lot of money to go out on the road, and I can get you good money too." I said, "Well, you know, maybe I'll do it." He goes, I don't want to do it." I said, "Well, why not?" He goes, Toto's going to be going out, and we would have some conflicting dates, and I don't want to let the guys in Toto down. You know, that's my family. Those are my brothers. And then he calls me back about a week later. He goes, "Bruce just made me an offer that," he goes, "first of all, it's going to be like in the millions for the tour, and I'll have the use of his private plane. So anytime we're playing west of the Rockies, I'll be able to fly home at night and spend the night in my bed and have breakfast with my family in the morning." And he told me that. He goes, "At that point, I had to tell him flat out no, because I'm just not going to let down the Toto guys." Yeah. So that's who Jeff was, man. Yeah. Jeff was the guy. We'd be hanging out before session started. We'd be out in the parking lot or something, and there'd be a guy with, like, you know, coming around asking for spare change. Jeff would give him a 20. Jeff was that guy, and he'd be like, you know, "This means a lot more to this guy than it does to me," you know.
That's an awesome story.
Ross, I didn't mean to cut you off. If there was more to that, I wanted you to continue.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Everybody's saying the same thing. I mean, he was just a great human being. He was the ultimate musician. He had taste. He had maturity. He was really cool. I mean, I heard I don't know exactly the details, but at one point, I think he was working for Disneyland, basically giving his blessing if something was cool enough. He had some crazy other jobs that weren't even part of music. It was just like people respected his opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just one last thing too. He would have been probably right now, had he stuck around, he'd have probably produced so many great records.
Right.
Yeah. He had a producer's mind. And so not only with all these other gifts that we're talking about here, but he really truly thought like a producer. And,
yes.
And he did basically produce those the Toto stuff. I mean, can you imagine what he'd have done with it's just, we could talk about that. That's the frustrating part, is that we're talking about something.
Remember the Strand Jam?
I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know. We got a bad
Who is that?
The Strand.
Yeah.
Remember them?
I think that could be you, Jody. I think you're.
That's right. He's flanging.
Your audio, Jody.
Yeah.
Strand record.
But
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Remember the Strand record that Jeffrey produced? It was his first production.
Yeah. No, if Jody is talking, he's frozen.
Am I flanging?
Yeah, he said what Jody's saying is Jeff produced the band The Strand.
The Strand. Okay, I couldn't make it out.
It was it was the only record he ever produced.
He would have produced so many records by now.
Yeah.
I mean, he had. It's just like what Ross was just saying. He had so many talents.
I'm just talking about Strand.
You got a bad connection, buddy.
Yeah.
That's too bad, Jody. We can't understand you, Jody.
I was just gonna
I was just. Can you hear me now?
It's still, it's
Bad connection, Jody.
Yeah, maybe jump out and jump back on. And we're gonna wrap it up soon anyway, guys, because we're coming up to.
I got it. It's just in time for me to have my second cup of coffee. Otherwise, I have to miss it.
Yeah, no, I know. I was gonna just.
John, God bless you.
Thank you, Jim.
For working hard to make this happen. It's just. It's not a big deal to anybody else, but to all of us who love Jeff, it's a thrill to hear everybody talk about how deep, their relationship was, and what a deep cat he was. My coffee, great. Just such a young man with such an old soul. That's what Jeffrey represented to me all the time. Mm-hmm. He just was like everybody always said, hey, Jeffrey always says you're like, they always referred to him as my little brother. I could never think about it like that. I was his little brother, really, when it came down to it. He just, and even his voice, everything about Jeffrey was like, he was like the big brother, and giving $20 to the guy on the street, to this day, he influenced a lot of people. He influenced a lot of people in so many great ways. Forget about the music, just forget about the music. I mean, if you were fortunate, like what Stan said, if you were fortunate to have him enter your life in some kind of way, what a great blessing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He left this world a better place, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Sure did.
Yeah.
What more do you want, from?
I know. I'm going to just.
Hey guys, Ricky, love you. It's so good to see you, man.
You too.
Same thing. Jody, we don't get to hang very much, but you got to get a better connection if we're going to do it. Gary Mallaber, God bless you, brother. John Good, you look fantastic, man.
Yeah, you do. John Good, thank you for being here. And guys, I'm gonna end the stream. So hang for 1 second if you would, Jim. I just want to thank everybody for being here today. Once again, Robyn Flans, Harry McCarthy, Jim Keltner, Rich Mangicaro, Rick Marotta, John Good, Jody Cortez, Gary Mallaber, Ross Garfield, and I guess Stan has departed, and Gregg Bissonette and Vinnie and everybody else that was here today. But yeah, hang tight for 1 second, guys. We'll end the stream and we'll say goodbye in the room. So thanks for watching, everybody. And
thanks, John. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I
you.
love you guys.
Thank you.
I love you guys.
Beautiful.
Thank you.